What's your boy Vaughn? Another reaction. In today's video, we have why kickers are the hardest position. Why kickers are the hardest position to draft. I thought this shit said why kickers the hardest position in football. Uh, but Isaac punts. I just put this video on my watch later, nigga. I ain't even read the title.
Across the NFL, the kicker has become one of, if not the most important position on the team as far as specialists
Yeah, kickers is important.
are
Y'all be
concerned.
taking that shit easy. Gang, you just kicking the football game. It be windy outside. Like.
I mean, it's the one position that can essentially put points on the board with little to no contention from as far back as midfield. And being an elite kicker not only adds a new dynamic to your team, but
Like, it's niggas that literally won games off just kicks. Like, it
can
done
make you
been
some
games like that.
big money.
Nigga, I thought the Seahawks kicker was about to win Super Bowl MVP. He was the only nigga scoring the ball.
Heck, I mean, how many games did Justin Tucker win for his team? How many Super Bowl and playoff appearances came down to the leg of Adam Vinatieri? Being able to rely on one of these guys in the clutch,
Yeah, Adam Vinatieri, the GOAT kicker,
isn't just paramount, but necessary. And unfortunately, the history of drafting kickers has been more than a little bit dicey. But what people don't know is that there is a little known secret to drafting kickers, something that I feel like I alone know. And it's going to make sure that you never, ever make the mistake of drafting a bad one. But to truly understand what it is that I'm talking about, we're of course going to have to go back and look at all the kickers that have been drafted since 2000 to really paint the picture of what's going on here. Because there have been 51, yes, you heard that right, 51 freaking kickers drafted. That's roughly 2 a year for 25 years. So right before we even get into it, what do you think the hit rate on kickers is? Like 50%? 75%? 35%? 40%? It's a lot worse than what you think. If we go back to the year 2000, we saw 3 kickers get drafted. Of the 3, one has his name plastered in the stars with Sebastian Janikowski, who played 17 years, most of the time with one team in the Raiders, had a few All-Pros, and is beloved by fans, which is good, because he is the only kicker to have ever been drafted in the first round, so you better be right about him. However, the Bears and Bengals both drafted a kicker in the 6th round, and got pretty good production out of Neil Rikers and Paul Ettinger, who all survived past their rookie contracts and seemingly got to leave the league on their own terms. I would say, as far as drafting kickers, this is a 100% hit rate. The year after, they tried again with 3 more kickers drafted, this time with much different results. Not a single kicker would survive their rookie contract. Bill Gramatica, who was drafted in the 4th, would be the closest to a success story, as he only lasted 2 years and was cut in the 3rd. And then
them jerseys, them Cardinals jerseys.
got to play one more game before never being seen again. Yeah, that's the one who almost made it. In the 5th round, you had John Markham, who would never play a single game in the NFL, and in the 7th, the Patriots would draft Owen Pockman, who would only ever play for the Giants and Niners for a grand total of 16 games. 10 with the Giants, 6 with the Niners before being out of the league. So this brings us to a hit rate of 0% on this year for kickers. Bringing us to 2002, where 2 kickers would be drafted with Jeff Chandler in the 4th round and Hayden Epstein in the 7th, who both wouldn't survive a single season with the team who drafted them, leading us to another 0%, with 2003 only having 1, which was Josh Brown in the 7th round, where we'd get to see him have a long and fruitful career, playing out his full contract with the Seahawks before going to the Steelers and having a good tenure there, even winning a Pro Bowl in the twilight of his career with the Giants. Now 2004 would bring us more kickers drafted, as the Chargers went up to get Nate Keating out of Iowa, who had a great career with them.
And them niggas went up the draft the kicker.
Getting 2 All-Pro recognitions, as well as a pair of Pro Bowls. Heck, even Josh Scobie, who was drafted in the 5th that year, would play 11 years with the Jaguars, and even though they had one guy not work out with David Kimball, who cares? That's a 66% rate for that year. From there, though, it would largely go downhill. 2005 would be another year with a true 0% hit rate, as it now featured a kicker going in the 2nd round in Mike Nugent, which is an above and beyond high draft pick for a kicker, just for him to get released 2 years after, with the only other 2 kickers being drafted lasting for a combined single season with their teams. So for
Speaking of kickers, though, I saw a nigga Brandon Arbery sign like a $28 million contract. That's the highest kicker contract ever. Yeah, he deserved that shit. I ain't gonna lie, that nigga automatic. Just look at that. I never really knew what this nigga really looked like. 4 year, 28 million. God damn. 20 million in guaranteed money to kick the ball. God damn.
For this small sample size of 5 years, including an outlier of 100% year,
And that nigga in Texas, so no state income tax. God damn.
the total hit rate for drafting kickers would sit right at 6 of 15 attempts, which is around 40%. And if you thought that was low, over the years it would just get worse and worse. In fact, if we look at all 51 kickers drafted since 2000, we can see that only 15 out of the 51 would last through their rookie contract with a team who drafted them. In fact, you are as likely to draft a player who will never play a snap for you as you are to draft somebody who's going to make it through their rookie contract. And the odds of that actually get worse the higher you draft a kicker. Because only one kicker drafted in the second or third round has made it through their rookie contract. Only one kicker ever drafted in the fourth round has made it through the rookie contract, and only 3 kickers in the 5th round have made it through a rookie contract with the team. And those are considered pretty premium rounds to be drafting a specialist in. So while overall around 30% of kickers who are drafted ever end up lasting through the rookie contract for a team, that number actually falls closer to 25% of kickers when you draft them in those higher rounds. That means you are actually more likely to draft a
Dang, who drafting a kicker in the fucking second round? Like, hey, no franchise did that. They both dumb as hell.
kicker who's going to last with your team if you spend an inferior pick on them. That number climbs all the way up to 35%. Yes, you are 10% more likely to draft a kicker who is going to last through his rookie contract if you draft in the 6th round. And you can see that as a lot of the kickers drafted in the 6th recently have panned out pretty well with Bora Gallis, Cam Little, and Will Riker. And in the 7th round, you also have a 30% hit rate. And if you want something to compare that to, if we just take a look at how punters usually pan out, they have a hit rate of 54%. That is double the hit rate for kickers pretty much, and it shouldn't be that much of a difference. And the reason that it should be higher for specialists is because it's not like other positions where you expect guys to flop. Almost any time a kicker or punter doesn't work out, it should be considered like a bust because they're only taking 1 or 2 of these guys who they think are the absolute cream of the crop and ready to play right now. There is no drafting for depth when it comes to kickers and punters because there's only ever one guy on the roster. So right now I could stop the video and you might think to yourself, okay, boom, we've got it. We've got the answer. Don't spend a 1st through 5th round pick because your odds of those hitting are significantly lower than if you're spending a 6th or 7th round pick. However, I think this story goes a little bit deeper. But to paint the best picture, we have to look at the kickers who aren't drafted. Because even when we look at the kickers in the draft, who's the best one? Probably Gostowski, right? With 3 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pro selections.
Yeah, most kickers, they go undrafted and they just get signed as an undrafted free agent, right?
Has played on some big stages, then maybe like Mason Crosby or Butker, who's had a couple good years, and hey, Cam Little hit the longest field goal of all time, so that's something, right? Well, to contextualize it, the crazy part is the overwhelming success of those not in the draft. Take, for instance, arguably the best kicker of all time, Adam Vinatieri, often regarded as the GOAT.
But ain't no arguably. Ain't no kicker better than him. I'm good.
Did not get drafted, didn't even get picked up as a priority free agent, but had to go to Europe first, then make his way onto a roster. Next, you have Justin Tucker, who, controversy aside, has been probably one of the greatest
Justin Massage Paula Tucker
kickers of all time. He invented a new kicking style to break the NFL's longest field goal of all time record on a game-winning kick at that. He also was like the most accurate kicker in NFL history and quite frankly changed the game of kicking as we know it. Naturally, he went undrafted and came in as a free agent. Heck, even guys like Robbie Gould or Matt Prater, who have had legendary careers, weren't drafted. And I know this guy technically couldn't be drafted, but someone tearing up the league right now is the undrafted Brandon Aubrey. So when you really think about it, not only by drafting a kicker are you expecting around a 70% chance that that guy's not going to pan out for the whole contract, but on top of that, there is a historically 0% chance that they're ever going to be in contention for one of the best to ever do it at this level. And like I said, the closest we got is Gostowski, who, while being very good, is still kind of not even in the same conversation as the top dogs. And when you compare this to punters who have been drafted, you have to go out of your way to find a good punter who hasn't been drafted.
Put in Pat McAfee clips.
AJ Cole is a great choice for a strong current punter who hasn't been drafted, and you also have Johnny Hecker, who was on my Mount Rushmore and wasn't drafted. But to balance that out, you have arguably the undisputed best punter of all time in Shane Leckler, then guys like Thomas Morstead, Pat McAfee for the casual fans, Logan Cook, who's putting together a strong case as one of the best of all time, and how about Michael Dixon, who just showed how valuable he is, and by the way, was also drafted. Now, while you might think that there's just a little bit of dumb luck that there's never been like a greatest of all time kicker drafted, because hey, there's plenty of kickers that get picked up in undrafted free agency, so maybe it's just chance. I would be remiss not to tell you why I truly think that this is a little bit beyond luck. I think it plays into the psychology of kickers and something that's actually unique to this position that no other position has to deal with, not even punters, and is what makes them so uniquely hard to evaluate as well as draft. With the first part being talented kickers. The story of most kickers is some level of soccer background, which actually helps in developing a natural leg swing that translates pretty positively over to kicking. On top of that, there's also this factor of those who naturally kick the ball well in soccer are more likely to want to try kicking, as there's greater reward for kicking the ball far in American football than there is for kicking a ball far in soccer. This leads a lot of times to players coming in with a lot of kicking talent, where I think for most other positions, while kids can be naturally talented, so can your opponents, so can your co-competitors, where kicking, there's just a lot of you being talented in a bubble. This leads to a lot of inflated egos, which we see a lot more of in kickers than we do in other positions or punters. All right, now look, I know that sounds like a very biased opinion for me to have, but I have talked to literally hundreds of kickers and punters, okay? And this is just kind of a universal fact that's accepted in the special teams field, so bear with me a little bit on this one, and this is definitely a trust me bro moment. But that natural talent means that they are truly seldom challenged, especially when coupled with the second fact that kickers are largely set up to succeed. And not just set up a little bit to succeed, but overwhelmingly so. Coaches will largely put their kickers in a position to not only succeed, but succeed at a high enough level because their job is on the line if they fail to do so. Like if you see a kicker who hits every kick short from 50 plus yards and they get 13 attempts on the season, that coach is just dumb for doing that. If a kicker isn't good from a certain hash or into a certain win or with some other stipulation, coaches will make game time adjustments so that kicker has the best chance of making his kicks. Compare this to a punter where it doesn't matter what your top end is, what the wind is, how much pressure is being brought. On 4th and 11, if that ball's at the 2-yard line, sorry bud, you're heading out there to go punt. This not only, in my opinion, muddies the water on how you evaluate kickers because they're technically always being given a kick that they in theory should make. So when you tie that in with a guy who's naturally talented and only has ever been put in positions to succeed, what do you think happens when all of a sudden they're drafted and held to the fire of being amongst the best to ever do it at the highest level? Well, the results speak for themselves. 70% of them do not work out for the benefit of the team who's drafting them, and 75% don't work out when taken in the first 4 rounds with some very egregious misses. So it all sort of doubles down and compounds together. Not only can you have a really big miss when you're drafting a kicker, but the reality is that for many kickers, they're probably also missing a key piece of their own development as a kicker, which is their first true experience with failure, where they're actually starting from the bottom and having to crawl their way back into the league. This is important for these guys. It's something that a lot of other positions have had to go through, which is why the hit rates on those players are so much higher. And it's why I think that the best guys to ever do it have all had to go through this sort of transformation. So the secret to drafting a kicker really is Don't. Let some other team draft him, let him fall out there, and then get him on the backswing. Or better yet, see a guy with a lot of talent, let him get all the way down to an undrafted free agent, because if he doesn't, he's not going to be able to go through that transformation that you want. And then when you draft him, he is going to rise to the occasion. Look at guys like Cameron Dicker. He had all the talent coming out of college, and I'm not going to say that he was going to be bad if you drafted him. Maybe he would have been all right, but the reality is,
Old Miss Kicker fire too. I don't know that nigga name, but that nigga was fire, bro. Old Miss Kicker, bro. That nigga was fire, bro. He was making a lot of kicks against that game against Georgia in the playoff. I think he made all his kicks.
he had that chip on his shoulder. He came to the league and then won Player of the Week on 2 separate teams. That's how guys play. Those are those things that you get from these undrafted kickers that we just frankly don't see from rookies very often. So tell your GMs this year, don't draft a kicker, let one fall to the bottom and help him climb his way
Yeah, and the GMs ain't gonna see this game.
back up. And you might just have one of the next best kickers of all time.
Like nigga, shit. I'll be having a lot of shit. I feel like the Saints should have picked Caleb Downs over Jordan Tyson. I ain't mad at it. I wanted Jordan Tyson or Caleb Downs, but shit, I ain't the GM. Shit, the GM, them niggas wanted Jordan Tyson. Them niggas gonna draft the kicker. Niggas gonna draft the kicker. Obviously, nigga, if I was the Rams GM, I'm not picking no Ty Simpson with the 14th or 13th pick, whatever it was. Like, what was y'all thinking?